Hello and welcome back to Simon's Rants. I'm Simon, and today I'm going to be giving my second thought on The Dark Knight Rises. Now, this is your spoiler warning because I am going to be talking about this movie in its entirety, so a lot of the plot points will be spoiled, and if you don't want that, click away now. I'm also apologizing because I am a little bit sick, so my voice sounds a little bit weird, so I'm sorry for that, but we're just going to get through it. So, when I did The Dark Knight, I said that it was Nolan at his sloppiest, to the chagrin of a couple of people. But I do think that the whole trilogy is full of unnecessary plot holes. And for the most part, the movie's entertaining enough that it gets over that. And that's the same case for this, but barely. This movie is very long. It's very long, and it really doesn't need to be. And at least for me, I'm only really entertained at all when Bane by Tom Hardy is on screen. He's phenomenal, and the acting as always is good. You've got the same great cast coming back, but everybody just seems a little bit tired. And yeah, it makes sense. Their characters are going through a lot. They would be tired, but the performances themselves seem tired. Like Gary Oldman just doesn't really seem to want to be there that much. The whole production feels like it was put together by people that didn't really want to be there that much, which I think is the case because Nolan really didn't want to make these three Batman movies. He made the first one as an attempt to get recognition and money. He made the second one because I think he felt obligated to make a sequel, and then he started enjoying the process because he was working with Heath Ledger as the Joker, and that was some of the most amazing acting he'd ever seen. So he was really into it, and he was invigorated by that, so that movie felt alive and vibrant due to that. And then this one, he had no desire to make. It's been talked about. He didn't want to make this movie, but he didn't want anybody else to make this movie. So he just finished off his trilogy in a way that nobody could make another sequel to it. He wanted to make a definitive end so that if people made more Batman movies, which they did, it would have to be a hard reboot. It couldn't be some sort of soft reboot where they're using some of the same characters and new other characters or actors. It would have to be a definitive, this is a different universe. So it wouldn't be like what happened to Tim Burton when it's a whole new Batman, but you still got the same Alfred and Gordon and stuff like that. This is like, this is done. So he did that, and it's still an okay movie. I'm not saying it's a bad movie at all. I don't think Nolan's capable of making a bad movie. Knock on wood, he probably will eventually. It happens to all good directors. But it's far from as great as Nolan can be. And a big part of that is it's just truly an uninspired movie in a lot of ways. I think you probably could have taken out Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character entirely. You'd have saved at least a half hour of runtime, and you wouldn't have missed anything other than the fact that at the end he becomes Batman Beyond. But it just completely unnecessary character. He's not interesting at all, and the fact that he is surprise Batman Beyond at the end, it doesn't really interest me enough to be glad that he was there. And then having his name be Robin was just cringy. It just didn't add anything. Another character that could have been removed entirely and would have made the story better was Marion Cotillard's Talia al Ghul. Pointless, not a good version of the character at all. Both, actually, of the women characters in this movie were dealt with not very well. Both Selena Kyle and Talia al Ghul are supposed to be very, for lack of a better word, they're supposed to be like these sexy women that are supposed to be able to actually trick Batman sometimes because they're so attractive and they're so sneaky and they're able to get under his cowl in a way because they're so seductive that like it kind of he allows himself to be tricked or he's too distracted to know he's being tricked, which nobody else is really able to do, and that's why Catwoman or Talia al Ghul, depending on the storyline you go with, are his love interests because he's just obsessed with them or just so smitten with them. And in this, neither one is especially attractive, despite there being played by attractive women, but the way they're portrayed isn't attractive in any way. In Catwoman's case, the outfit isn't attractive at all. It's just this weird leather thing. I don't know. Both of the women aren't portrayed well at all. Talia al Ghul, especially though, I just hate the character arc. And to explain why I hate it so much, you have to really get into Tom Hardy's Bane's character arc, because Tom Hardy is portrayed at first you believe to be the heir to Ra's al Ghul, which is not accurate at all to the comic books. And you're thinking, oh, this is a brand new plot twist, but you're not really surprised that Nolan would go in that way, because he's kind of said screw you to the comic books the whole trilogy so far. He just does whatever he wants, and it's usually good, so you don't really care. People just forgive him for changing stuff because it's good, so people don't care that much. So you've got this character arc going where Bane is this vengeful, crazy man. All he wants to do is promote the League of Shadows because he wants to follow through with what Ra's al Ghul never got to finish, and the main thing in his way is Batman. And then you've got the second plot twist where, oh no, he's just Talia al Ghul's lackey, and Talia al Ghul wants to do all that, but Bane is just doing it because he's in love with Talia al Ghul, and he becomes lame, and he becomes a secondary villain real quick. And you saw that. I talked about it in the other two ones. You've always got a secondary villain throughout this entire trilogy. You've got Ra's al Ghul, Scarecrow. You've got the Joker. You've got Two-Face. And this, you've got Talia al Ghul, and you've got Bane. And for the whole time, you're thinking Bane is the main guy and Talia al Ghul is the backup, but then at the end it switches, and Bane just becomes lame in the last scene. You have him have the single tear, and then he gets killed so unceremoniously. He just gets killed by a bike running through a wall, and it's not fulfilling, it's not cool. The way Talia al Ghul dies is really lame too. She's just in a car crash, and it's just lame. It's not interesting at all. And it's just, you ruined one of the best villains I've ever seen in a movie just by making him lame and then killing him off immediately after. And it's frustrating because you thought he was this madman driven by an overdone desire to make the world perfect as it should be. Like, you're thinking of him as like the ultimate anti-hero, a lot like Ra's al Ghul, but a little more of a madman, and that's cool, and you like that, and Bane's awesome that way. And then you find out, oh no, he's just trying to impress a woman. That's kind of lame. So, yeah, not a fan of that at all. And as Batman does in the Nolan movies, he takes a backseat to the villains, and he does it in this one as well. And he's just not really interesting in this either. You see him going through his dilemma of not wanting to be Batman anymore, and then he does that after he defeats Bane, and it's a fine storyline, but it's something that Spider-Man 2 talked about and did better. So I'm just not interested because you didn't do it very well. You just went, oh, I don't want to be Batman. Okay, bye, and that's it. Unless he actually died. We don't know if he dies and Alfred's hallucinating when he sees him at the Italian restaurant, or we don't know that he actually did somehow escape, defying the fact that there was no autopilot, and jettisoned away. That whole thing is weird and clunky. And if he did fix the autopilot that they said was broken and did a jettison beforehand and sent the nuclear bomb away, okay, I can buy that, but I don't particularly like it. It's not like it was a clever plot twist. It's just, oh, okay, why didn't you say he was gonna do that then? Like, that's something that you would do in the Fast and the Furious. So why is it so clever that Batman would do it? I'm not impressed. I'm not. It's just okay. And that's how most of this movie is. It's not like this movie's bad at all. I'm not interested in anything that's happening, and it's like 3 hours long. I just don't care. It's like It Chapter 2, where all of this junk is happening, and there's a really cool villain he's interesting, but that's all I care about. I don't care about anything else. And then they ruin the villain by having him have a horrible, stupid demise at the end, just like It Chapter 2. So, I don't know. To me, it's Nolan's worst movie, other than debatably Following. And Following, I like better than The Dark Knight Rises because even though it's clunky and stuff, it has excuses. It was his first film he made. He didn't have any professional actors or anything involved, so of course it was going to be clunky. Of course it was going to be awkward. Of course there's going to be little things that are painful to watch, but this has no excuse. You've got Christian Bale, you've got Tom Hardy, Gary Oldman, Michael Caine, Morgan Freeman. You've got all of these people. Even Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Marion Cotillard, and Anne Hathaway are introduced in this one. And it's like they should be awesome, and it's just boring. How do you make that boring? It's lame. And then that's not even getting into the plot holes. And there's plenty of plot holes in this too you can get into. Like, why in the world Batman breaks his back, and then the way you heal it is you go, oh, the vertebrae's sticking out. That's apparently how you fix a broken back. You just smack it into place. It's like extreme chiropractic. He should get a YouTube channel. He'd be great. And then you find out through some leaked information that, Bane and his cohorts are living in the sewers, so let's send every cop in Gotham City into the sewers. How about not? How about you send a SWAT team in to smoke them out and then deal with it? I know how it should have ended, talked about that, but that was my first thought too. What are you doing? What? You're a moron. What are you doing? Also, that whole fight scene at the end, so you've got the mob of police and the mob of Bane's resistance running at each other because Batman disabled all of their guns electronically somehow. I don't know how that works, but whatever. And so then they just run and have a brawl in the middle of the street. And if you look, and I did this by accident the first time I saw it. I saw it in IMAX the first time I watched it. I just happened to pick a random guy to track as he's running through the street. And it was a cop. And he's running at the bad guys. And he gets to the first guy, winds up, goes over him, and keeps running. And the fighting was just bad. Like, it's really obvious, like, fake punches. And just doesn't look good. And if I have one weakness for Nolan, it's his crowd shots like that. And maybe it's his editor that is bad, because it's like you'd think you'd be able to notice that stuff like that happens, or like in Dunkirk, people noticed in the trailer that one of the soldiers was like smiling and stuff instead of being afraid. So it's like, it's stuff like that, just that's sloppy and should be noticed. Like, if the guy in the center of the screen is very obviously missing people, then I get him and move him to the back or something. You just change it up a bit, or say, hey, maybe you can hit the guy, just don't do it very hard. Do something to make it look a little bit better. I don't know, but fix that. I've been trying to keep these under 10 minutes, but man, there's just a lot to talk about. And the fact that this whole plot is predicated on the existence of the ending of The Dark Knight, which I already talked about, is mind-numbingly stupid. This whole time you're just going, this could have been avoided. Because the whole time Bane is going like, oh, we know that Gary Oldman lied. And that Two-Face was the bad guy. So it's like, yeah, you figured it out real quick because it was a stupid lie. There was no reason to lie about it, so this movie didn't have to happen. I mean, I'm sure Bane would have come along anyway because Bane still wanted to kill Batman. But the reason he was able to overrun the city was based on taking away the trust that the people had in the government and the police force and all of that. So if they hadn't lied needlessly, then that wouldn't have happened. So this whole movie would have been a whole lot different if the ending of the last one was actually smart. I use the word rewatchability a lot because it really does affect how I see a movie. Because there can be a great movie and then you just never want to watch it again. And that honestly affects how I see it. If I see a movie and I enjoy it, but I'm like, I'm never going to watch that again, I struggle to give it a 10 or a 9 even. And this movie, if it was an hour shorter, I could probably give it a 7. 7.5 maybe even. It's got plot holes, it's stupid, but you know what? It was streamlined and it was entertaining. This is not streamlined, and I'm going to be honest, it's not really that entertaining. It's pretty boring. And I love Christopher Nolan. I've said this 1,000 times. He's my favorite director of all time, but this is weakest output. Not my favorite. So yeah, I give this one like a 6, maybe a 6.5 if you get me in a good mood. So yeah. What did you guys think though? Let me know in the comments below. And of course, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It really does help out. I do need the help, so thanks guys. Bye.